Well, Laura, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I have to say, I'm quite intrigued because, as everybody will discover very soon, you're sitting in the most beautiful location that I've ever seen in a long, long time. Before we get started, why
Oh,
don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do?
hello, lovely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my name's Laura. I am actually in Istanbul at the minute. Last week, I decided to come on over because I thought the spas would be better here than in the UK. Well, they are. They truly are. And I've realised that already. And I just needed a bit of time in my present, really. So that's why I did it. But I work with women to find their most integral, authentic self. And I guide them and help them with their business, or I take them into a business journey. So I bespokely work with women. Yeah, that's what I do.
Oh no, I love it. And this is going to be the topic for today for everybody listening and watching this video. So we're going to talk about authenticity because I think this is kind of like one of those hard topics to really dive into
Yeah.
for all of
Yep, yep,
us.
yep.
But before we dive into all of these kind of things, I want to get a little bit more about your story. How did you get started in this? And how did that journey kind of evolve to where you are now in Istanbul?
Well, thank you for asking. I guess, I've had a lot of reflection time over the last few days, and I think about it a lot sometimes, especially for why I'm so passionate for women. And I think what it is from a very, very young age, I always had this feeling inside of me that we were limitless. And I always had this feeling, no matter um, where I was sort of surrounded by my parents' belief systems, my schooling, my environment, the relationships that I held. I always believed and challenged from a very, very young age that we could do anything. I actually used to think, if that man can do it, I can do it. I used to think that very, very young. And I think in reflection, why I used to think that was because everybody around me that was like very, very successful, very rich when I was very young, that was all before the social media age. I'm 32 now. They were all men. So it just was embedded there. It was just an obvious thing. And so then what happened was I loved performing, loved entertaining, actually embarked on a degree, went over to, studied my degree in London, went over to Canada and lived almost for a year in Canada when I was 22, performing. And it was a very, very, very toxic male dominated industry. And I was sexualized and objectified quite a lot. And I never really understood how to navigate it. So, I had to be very masculine on the forefront. It become like this game of, no, if I get richer, if I get more famous, if I get more successful, then I'll have the power and I can do everything I want to do. And if that man can get it, so can I. And that was it really when I look back. And anyway, I came home because I couldn't cope with that. I couldn't cope with the situations I was put in, and I wasn't prepared to behave in that way. So I went back to the drawing board and I actually met another young girl, and we started a property business. Now you can imagine a very, very male dominant industry. And we built that from 2015 to 2019. And 2019, my business partner, she was pregnant, and she didn't really want to. She couldn't see a journey when she'd had the baby with the property business still. And so I was like, okay, maybe I take this on, maybe I continue, but there was something missing. Again, it was all because I wanted to have what that person had, like what that man, if he can have it, so can I. And really what I understood then is that I was working out of my ego. It was working out of the extrinsic place. That wasn't authentic in my heart. I just got lost. I got lost by everything I was shown and everything that I was from that young age, and from, that vulnerable girl wanting to perform and seeing all these things and help and succeed. And so basically, when I knew that that wasn't quite for me, I had a meltdown because I was like, okay, well, that was my title. I owned a business and I did other jobs and I worked every hour under the sun to make everything work. But it just wasn't fulfilling me. It was fulfilling, I guess, this title or ego or expectation. And so what I realized along the way is how much I loved helping and nurturing and really mentoring others and giving them this energy. If they can have it, we can have it. We're all born the same way. Like, we can, I'm sure we can, I know we can. And it came through in everything I did. But 2019 was this benchmark of me really stepping into just knowing that I was enough without having to do anything more. And actually, what I do now is I teach other women to know, if that man can have it, so can you. And that is it. That is it. And you know, it's just crazy. I'm so grateful. But there was a lot of things that, when I stripped away my past self and past feelings, and I actually enrolled with a mentor that I truly trust, she's incredible, to spear me onto this next journey. It made me realize truly that actually I can have everything in my life to show up the way I want it. And it is all doable. And one of those things was to be able to travel with my work. That was really important with me. You know, that shouldn't be something where we place as a luxury, or you know, as an extrinsic thing that makes us happy once a year. And work is work. You know, I truly believe you can have a life where everything is abundant and everything flows. It's not about not being grateful. It's about understanding you can have it. We can have it. We can have it. We are deserving, and we can have more, you know. And so everything I do now is off of my laptop. I do shoot as well. Like, I'm a photographer, and I adore that, and it gets intertwined in my businesses and in the work that I do, especially for clients and so on. But massively, you know, it takes me around the world. So, you know, and I can, again, make that become flow with everything that I'm doing. So yeah, it's a bit of a long story that I hope was kind of short, but that is pretty much me.
Oh, I love it. And you know what? I think as you were sharing your story, a lot of people listening to this now would really resonate with that, because I think we all go through a process where we feel mentally or physically stuck and just thinking, but what is it that I really need to do? What is it that is really aligned with me? What is my passion? And we all feel that we're working towards something, but we don't know what. And
Yeah.
I do find a lot of women that I work with in particular, they all have little journeys like this, where they have this kind of awakening, as you call it, the spiritual awakening, where you just go like, oh, wow, finally, you know, I realize what it is that I need to do. And not so much do, but what I feel like I need to do, what is aligned with me. And I think that's so important. So when you were sharing your story, hands up, I myself went through an experience similar like that, where I just went like, oh, and then everything just fell in place. It is the most amazing experience. And for those of you who's listening who's already experienced a similar situation where you had that kind of, can I call it an epiphany almost?
Yeah, it does feel like that. People, you know,
Yeah.
luckily for friends and family that know me already, they don't think I'm crazy. Well, they've sort of always thought I was mad. But you almost find like yourself having this out of body experience where you laugh at yourself. You're like, oh my God, I've like evolved into this like other person. I'm very spiritual now, and I've never been religious, and I'm quite logical and like thinking patterns. So it's like when something's presented to me, I understand it. But for what I've gone and felt and been through, as you say, you can't describe it in any other way. It's almost like you feel like you completed the game of life. It's so weird.
It is.
And it's actually really much more simple than we all think. We
Oh
are
my
just
gosh,
limited
yes.
by our thoughts.
It is so true. And I work always by simplicity. I always go for simplicity in life and in business. But yeah, I think people would listen to this, and those who have experienced that epiphany moment would completely agree with you. And then I think there's others who are still on that journey for themselves, who's going like, I want to get to that point. What is it that I need to do? I've been looking and searching for something. I just don't know what. But I think this comes back down to what we want to share today, which is that authenticity. And I think this is the biggest thing, because when I found out that particularly I didn't have to go and copy other people and pretend and do all these kind of things, I just needed to tap into myself. Oh my gosh, that was my moment. And that's where I just felt everything started falling in place. I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to be scared anymore. And I can go on and on and on. But let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about this, because I think everybody's so excited now, wanting to hear, especially those who are still on this journey, who wants to discover a little bit more about what it is that they should do to have this moment where they just feel like, this is me. So let's talk about discovering a little bit about your authentic self. Because like I said, I just gave an example here where I said so many people are scared, or they even have these limiting beliefs or blocks up about who it is that they should be. And I think personally, a lot of it comes from, I mean, thank goodness for technology, but a lot comes from social media, where we get now a broader range of who is out there, who is successful, what people are doing. And we kind of feel that we need to compare ourselves to these people.
you know, it's interesting because I think you're right. I think there's definitely an element to that, but I think trying to find your most authentic route is an inward job. Firstly, it's an inward job, and a lot of people like the idea of it, but actually put them on a plane and throw them off the other side on their own in Istanbul. I couldn't have coped with that 5 years ago. And it's funny because some people are more aligned to that than others. And we all have different traumas and triggers. So that's not about the macro there. That's just my personal experience. But you'll identify with that, I think, if you're truly willing to be vulnerable and brave and tap into that ego. You know, get rid of that cognitive dissonance where you try and resolve the issue and try and make it a little bit, oh, well, you know, the reason why I'm like that is because of that, and try and validate it in another respect. If you're truly ready, and this is another thing, when people come to me, I have to really fine tune and work out whether they are ready to be super vulnerable on a journey, because some people, as I say, they are, but they're not. And this is, I think, that pattern that really intertwines with social media. When I say that, it's like if someone comes to me and says, has a discovery call and says, I want you to help mentor me, I want to be an influencer. I work with a lot of influencers with doing a lot of my photography, and I have over the past. And that, unfortunately, in our society at the minute, is normally born out of a toxic extrinsic place. Yeah. So 90% of the time when somebody says that to me, that's because they are valuing what this world has put out, what they've seen. They're like, look at that lifestyle, look at what I can have if I do this. Like, you know, all they do is post all these pictures and get all this great lighting and look a certain way. And if I do all that and face tune and do all that, I can have that, I can have that. So they are not listening to themselves. They are listening to that ego, and they're listening to that make-believe extrinsic place of thinking that that's what they will find when they're there. But actually, if someone comes to me and they say, I want to be an influencer, and I say, okay, let's unpack it. Why do you feel like that? What do you mean by that? Okay, well, what I really mean is I want to be a content creator around flowers. And I say, what do you mean? And they say, oh my God, it's crazy. I like just have this passion around, like, I don't know, the way that like flowers can be and sit indoors and outdoors. And I believe that like the younger generation aren't as intertwined with, you know, gardening. And I want to bring that to life. I can work with that. Because that is born out of a place of their internal intrinsic passion. And that is where, when you show up in that place, it takes longer to get to burnout. It takes longer to get to resentfulness. It takes longer to get to force, because you truly love it. It's part of your life. It's part of your flow. So I would say, going back to your question too, around people finding their authentic path, I think it's about truly, truly being ready. And this is different for everyone. It's being ready to be sitting in your presence completely on your own. You know, we spend so much time in planning on what we're going to do next, what we're going to have for dinner, where we're going to go next week, where we're going to go on holiday, who we're going to meet, what clothes we're going to buy, what we're going to do about this. Or we spend time in our past. We go, God, well, I wouldn't be able to do that because that's happened before, or that relationship's not going to work out because it never does, because nobody's works out because of this. We don't ever really center in our present. And you know, meditation, yoga, all of those methods are incredible. And especially the practice of gratitude that I've embedded for the last year into my life. And it's regular and it's consistent, and it's so, so good for my limited beliefs. And when I'm moving forward into more vulnerable spaces, I have to do that, and I have to see that. And that's what traveling gives me. When I'm feeling a bit lost or chaotic and I've got loads of energy going on, and, you know, how much time do we actually spend in our present? Probably only when you're on the toilet and you're not even really fully in your present there because you're thinking about what you're doing. But, you know, we're constantly serving others or interacting, and to really sit fully in your present, you really start listening to yourself. And that's when you start to get to your authentic place, because you start actually questioning why you feel triggered in your ego around people, around things, around actions, and then you start identifying your limitations and your fears, and you're like, where's that from? I wonder where that's come in. Is that something I'm projecting, or is there actual truth to that fear? You know, that limitation. Why do I believe that probably the most amount of money I could ever earn is £100,000 a year and not £1,000,000? What does that look like? I'd love it. The intention's there that I would love that in my business, but do I actually believe that I could do it? And I think that's where we start to grow in terms of finding our authenticity, because we start to be really honest and vulnerable with ourselves. And it takes so much unpacking, because as you say, what social doesn't help with at the minute is plastering all these layers on us to feel like we have to show up in a certain way, and that is all ego led. And so that can be very dangerous, and people can move there, people can go on that journey, but that doesn't lead to true happiness.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 100%. You said it absolutely beautifully. You know, and one of the other things you said so well is when we do something, we've got to do it from the heart. And a lot of people have got different perceptions about what that means as well. But from your point of view, if you were saying that, you know, when we're in business, we've got to do this from the heart, and everything that you do in your business is got to be from the heart. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is your perception behind that?
Okay, thank you for asking me that. I think it's an interesting conversation, because it's something I've tapped into and worked really hard on. So what's quite interesting is, I think, by building a business, you know, especially quite a transactional business like property, for 5 years, myself and my business partner just thought we were winging it. We were like, we're just imposters, we're just showing up. And you turn up in the suit, and you turn up talking in the most eloquent way. Well, I can't even say the word. You feel that you need to, you know, read all these books, and you feel that you need to do X, Y, and Z, and so on, to be a business owner or to show up in this industry. And again, extrinsic. When we work from our heart, we just talk and work from our heart, you know, instead of over promising, over delivering, and working out of a place of fear or lack. When we say, you know, join now, otherwise, you know, this deal isn't on anymore. Again, that's just working out a lack, because you just think, well, if I say that, that will create some urgency. And again, this is the thing, marketing. It's funny, because I think marketing has been spun in the last 5 years. That's now more from the heart. You know, when you look at like some of the most incredible marketers of the world, like McDonald's, or like I would say possibly even like Aldi in the UK, they work from their hearts. They tap into what you actually think, what you think when you go into a supermarket, the things you talk about, the camaraderie you bring up. And actually, that's what humans identify, which is why reality TV has done so well. And that is why people are obsessed with social media, because there is an element of just realness to it in some respects. You know, there are some people where, I mean, again, you could unpack that in another conversation, because then some people think they know someone when they don't truly. But there is that realness. And I think that's the biggest thing I teach my clients. You know, when my clients are not sure what they say when they're contacting a big department store to try and get their makeup line in there, I'll say, let's work from our heart and work in your empowered place. So it's about showing up and owning what you've done, but working from your heart in that vulnerability. So it's mastering that feminine and masculine energy. Yeah. You know, so you'll understand, and it's hard to sort of create an exact example, but you know, it's funny when I work with some clients and they have this dream client, after we've done our, you know, some introductory work together, I then go in and go, right, now we're going to contact that dream client. They're like, I can't. I go, why? We're going to work from our heart. So what would I say? You know, if it, you know, I work with a beautiful makeup artist, and she's incredibly talented at her job. She doesn't even understand how gifted she is in so many areas. She's like, I just dreamed to do this lady's makeup. I just think, well, you know, I'm really connected to what she likes, what she looks. Tell her that. Direct message her. We are in a world where you can do that. That's the positives of social media. Get on there and work from your heart and say, look, I know this is a bit crazy. This is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. And I really, really would love to serve you. If there's any time that we're in the area together, I would love to exchange energy with you and provide you my services, because I think you're incredible. And this is how I think I could help you. You know, that is standing in your power, and that is working from your heart. You don't need a template where you go, oh, hi, you know, all that feeling of fear, that masculinity where we back out because we're scared that somebody won't reply. We're scared that we're not big enough yet. We're scared that we're going to be asked questions we don't know. You know, again, that's all working in that over limited traumatized state that isn't working in your present.
Yeah. And I also feel the powerful thing about working from the heart is this is where the law of attraction comes in play as well at the same time. I mean, you had a beautiful story there. I had a story with a client that I worked from, and she was again questioning herself, limiting beliefs, all of those things. And then what she did is she just saw somebody on LinkedIn that was doing something amazing, which was very much in alignment with her. She just reached out and just messaged her and just said, hey, really like what you're doing. Is there any way I can look more into this, blah, blah, blah. Not that she was trying to sell or that she was trying to buy into anything that this lady had to offer. And this lady was apparently quite huge and big in her industry. And she was like, yeah, I just reached out to her, not even thinking she would ever reply. And she did. And she actually really offered me an opportunity, which I couldn't say no to. And it was just out of the blue. And I thought, this is so powerful. And it's really very much similar with what you're sharing, because when you do something from the heart without expecting anything in return, without putting the ego in front of it, but just being authentic and doing it right from where you are sitting, amazing opportunities could come from it. And this is why I say the law of attraction is so powerful there when you do things from the heart.
100%. It's so true. I work all the way around universal work and law of attraction work, and it is absolutely, as you say, all of those things. I have so many stories just in this last year of what's happening from working like that, and it's overwhelming. Like, there's been times where it's brought me to tears, and like my mentor has to ground me, and she's like, okay, I know, and I'm like, are you a wizard? Am I a wizard? Am I a white witch? I don't know how this is happening. I think that's what's so crazy, but it truly is. And we just limit ourselves so much by our thoughts. But if you actually take action from your heart, when you're in an aligned place and the ego is balanced, there is no downfall to that. There's no negative. What is the worst that can happen? Maybe someone doesn't reply. Okay, well then if you truly trust in divine energy and divine clients and divine meetings, then they weren't meant to be for you. Or maybe they haven't read it or they haven't replied just yet. And if you are still aligned to them, message again, because this is the thing, again, our ego, our belief system tells us stuff. Well, that's awkward. They probably read it and then just thought I was annoying or thought that I wasn't good enough or I wasn't big enough for them. No, maybe they were just busy. Maybe they just opened it by accident when they were like sorting out their children in the evening or, trying to find out what train they needed to get. And you just need to tap them a message again and say, look, I'd really love to know your thoughts on the above. That's it. It's so, and we spend so much time overthinking with this disalignment to ourselves. We're thinking about what others think of us. We're stepping into that ego. We're working out extrinsic expectations and worries and fears then life goes. It just passes. Yeah. And that is the difference of being in that authentic heart, soul place and your authentic place, integrally to yourself, as opposed to that outward place, the outward space where you think you need to wear the suit, you think you need to have the qualification, you think you need to do all of these things to be approved or accepted or validated. You think, and that is just, it doesn't lead to happiness at all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. I think, between you and me, we can have this conversation for hours because this is something that I'm so, so passionate about. And I think people can feel it as well when they listen to us talking. There's a great vibe, there's a great energy between us because that's what I want to share. It's this authenticity that's coming through. Between you and me, between everybody else, that's what we've got to exude. That's kind of the energy that we've got to portray. So I've got one last question for you. Do you have one tip that you can share with the audience about what it is that they need to do to start tapping into their own authenticity?
I would say the biggest thing that they should do is, if they truly want to move forward in this authenticity journey, they need to really sit on their own and fully look at themselves and look at the way that they show up. Look at the true reasons why they show up. Why do you buy that jacket? Why do you work in that place? Why are you in that relationship? Really start tapping into yourself fully, truly on your own, in your present and in a vulnerable space, whatever that is to you. Traveling is mine. But it fulfills my soul so much. It sits me in my presence so much. I still get a little nerve. I still get a little, is everything going to be okay? I'm sure it is. And it's just incredible what it does for me in that short amount of time. And that is what I would say to your listeners. If they truly are ready for this journey, spend more and more time on your own. Block out all the sound on your own fully, really journaling what it is that you truly would like to have in this life. If you truly believed that anything is possible, you know, what are your passions? What do you talk about? What do you actually engage in when you're not showing up to work? What do you listen to? What do you talk about? Do that. That is how you should make money.
Yeah. Oh
They're
my
the
gosh.
people you should be around.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's those moments that you sit with yourself, with your true self, and start, I wouldn't say question yourself, but just thinking about why you are doing certain things. What is the main reason for it? So
absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. So to
Oh,
wrap
my
everything
pleasure.
up, you have got an amazing freebie for the audience. So let me hand over to you, and you can share a little bit about what this is and what this looks like. So, and then obviously what I'll do is I'll make sure to put the details in the show notes so everybody can go and grab it there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, of course. So I try to always do 3 really super valuable masterclasses a year. I'm just about to release my 3rd for the year this Thursday coming. However, I believe probably this will go out a little bit further along in time. So what I would advise you guys to do is, if you come onto my website, laurabelcher.com, and the link will be on my Instagram too in the show notes. Thank you. That's amazing. If you come and find me there is my backdated masterclasses where you can subscribe to my mailing list, and it will be sent to you for free as a gift. And I really, really try and make them as valuable as possible. And there's all sorts on there. So wherever you are in your business journey or just in your personal journey, I hope that there would be value in something on there. So yeah, they're on my website.
Amazing. And thank you so much for making that available, because I think, you know, it's one of those things that we always think, oh my gosh, a masterclass, I want to go to it. It's great. Oh, I missed it. But the fact that you're making your previous masterclasses available to anybody who signs up is really fantastic, because I know everybody's going to get so much value, even just from today, you know, just listening to us. If they get value from this, so I'm sure they're going to want more value from you. And then what we're going to do for all of you listening, obviously, like Laura said, we'll have the link in the show notes, but I'll also have her Instagram details there so you can connect with her there, and also just her website. So by all means, stalk her, check her out, you know, contact her, DM her. I'm sure she would love to get in touch with you if you have any questions. Like I said, you know, this is a powerful journey that we're all going on. And some of us have already experienced it. And hey, this is the best part. You're going to experience it once, and you're going to experience it again in the future, and again and again and again. There's always growth. There's always room for improvement as we grow as individuals. And for those of you who feel that you're just starting out, you're just looking for that moment, trust me, this, what Laura shared with you today, is already guiding you on that journey to experience it. Just the mere fact that you were already attracted to listen to today to what Laura had to share is already the universe showing you that you're moving in a direction, that you're on your way in order to discover that moment where you're really tapping into yourself and to just have the most incredible life. I mean, that's why we're all here, is to have an incredible life. So why make it difficult for yourself? Why question yourself all the time? Just go and really tap into who you truly are and take some of the tips that Laura shared with you, because I promise you, those moments of epiphany, they are awesome.
They are. Thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for coming on, and have a safe trip back, okay?
Thank you, my darling. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.